Yes, people, what's good? Welcome back to another F1 quali review. Not the most exciting qualifiers, I should say, as for myself, because listen, sometimes sometimes you just crash out and you don't you have a long day sometimes. But last night was a bit of a mad one as well, actually, because like I said, Max Verstappen stole pole from Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris crashed out. But we'll discuss with that. We'll discuss that soon. King, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Very interesting qualifying. It allows for the race to be very interesting as well because there's gonna be quick cars coming through with Lando uh, situation, but we'll talk about that and more. And yeah, man, in terms of for Ferrari, wasn't the greatest, wasn't the best,
What's the best for us?
but I didn't expect it to be the best. I think we're just similar to the Mercedes, just too far behind McLaren at the moment.
Yeah, facts. McLaren are just way too good for us. I'll be real. McLaren are just way too fast. It's hard to compete at the season because Ferrari did not make the necessary upgrades or necessary how'd you say it? Necessary fix. They didn't fix the car well enough to catch up with McLaren. I'll be honest. That's my take on it. But like I said, people, we are closing in on 200 subs. Let's get there soon. Sub to King's channel as well. I left the link in the title, so you sub to his channel. Let's get started. Obviously, Max Verstappen stealing pole, right at the death, um, by about one tenth of a second. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think just about a seventh. I can't remember what it was, but that was unbelievable for Max, wasn't it? Like he just took pole on the final sector from Oscar Piastri, who looked like he was going to get the pole, but up until the final sector, Max Verstappen just took it all. And I want to your thoughts on that one because Max Verstappen has been struggling in the last week and a bit. Two races ago or something, he was on top, and then it took him a week to get back. Like last week, it was a bit of a struggle in what was it, in Bahrain, but this week he's looked a lot better. He looks a lot faster now. But I want to know your thoughts on Max and yeah.
It was a great lap. I think Red Bull got the strategy right in the end. But for me, if you allow for a driver in an inferior car to get pole, it comes down to McLaren making mistakes again. Another weekend when McLaren aren't using their superior speed to the best of their abilities. Coming into it, practice free, they were up by 7 tenths compared to the rest of the field. So everything going into this qualifying was saying 1-2 McLaren. They leave with a 2 and a 10. That's not good enough. This
From
is
your
my
best
issue.
driver, as well. From the best driver as well.
Yeah. The fact that your Lando makes another mistake, crashes in Q3, and then Oscar doesn't do enough to get the pole as well, and you lose it to a championship rival in Max, who had a great last lap. Over the race, I don't think he's gonna be able to keep Oscar behind him. But if he has a good start and it becomes like second, third lap, it's going to be very difficult for Oscar to pass him, especially with the way the track is. It's not a very racy track, in my opinion. Um, so it just comes down to McLaren not living up to their billing, Verstappen uh, overdriving the car, and Red Bull creating the right strategy to have a 2 lap strategy in which it got the car into the right conditions to be able to 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 create that pole lap. And overall, I just think as great as Max was, I put the blame on McLaren. They let themselves down again, and for me, these are the kind of mistakes that are going to lose them the drivers' championship by the end of the season, and maybe even the constructors if they keep on messing around with their food and not getting the 1-2s, not maximizing their points. and not maximizing the car to the best of its ability, because it's the best car out on track by far. Everyone knows this. So if you're not P1 and 2, then it's an issue. And questions have to be asked of the leadership as well. Because these things can't happen. These things can't happen. So will be Lando needs to pick up what he's doing. Brilliant lap from Max. And yeah, that's all I really got to say about that.
The one thing about McLaren is I think they can have an off week. It's because they've been so dominant all season from race 1 to race to is this now race 5 of the year? This is now the 5th race of the year. Am I correct? So yeah, I just think they're allowed an off week. Lando Norris has not been the driver I thought he'd be this year. I thought he'd be even better, but it turns out Oscar Piastri seems to be the driver on form right now. I know he didn't. I know he finished second, but he did almost just about enough to get that pole. He got provisional pole. He got number 2. There's still a possibility that Oscar could end up being the race winner tomorrow. It's about how he handles himself tomorrow, because you're up against Max Verstappen, who is not the greatest, but the best driver on the grid by a distance. Like he is the current champion. He's the 4-time champion. You're up against him, the mentality monster himself. So it's going to be a bit of a tricky one, because you're going to have to try and fight mentally against him on the track. And when he's wheel to wheel with you, you know he's coming for blood. You know Max Verstappen's coming for blood when he's wheel to wheel with you. So you don't mess. So Max does not mess around. So it's going to be a bit of a tricky race tomorrow. In terms of obviously with Ferrari, like you said earlier, I think Ferrari had a bit of a struggle in terms of where their race pace. I think that tomorrow is going to be a bit tricky as well. It just depends on what strategy Ferrari decides to use going into tomorrow's race. Last week, Ferrari finished 4th in the sorry. They finished 4th in the in qualifying last week. If I'm not mistaken, I think they finished 4th or 5th last week. So
Yeah.
it's about your strategy tomorrow, what you can do, because Ferrari last week they looked a lot faster. This week I think Lewis Hamilton was the slowest driver of all. He almost got he survived Q3 by 0.007 seconds. That's how close he was to getting eliminated this week from Q2 in Q2. Sorry, that's how close he was to getting eliminated. So tomorrow's race pace is going to be really different. Lando Norris did not handle himself well, personally for me. I don't think he handled himself well. It was unlucky with the crash, but he made the wrong turn. I think he made the wrong turn in one of the corners, so that kind of gave him that. He's finished now in P10, right?
Yeah.
So he's gonna be on P10 tomorrow. So we'll see where he ends up. He could shoot up from P10 to P5 at the very, very start, but that's just a start. It's about how you finish. So tomorrow I'm keeping an eye on Lando Norris. I'm keeping an eye on Charles Leclerc. If these two drivers can poise a threat to Max Verstappen tomorrow, because who's the third driver? It was George Russell, right? That finished third.
Yeah.
It was George Russell. George Russell has been, for me, one of the third best driver in the grid this year, in terms of how he's been. I think Lando Norris has not been the best driver in the grid. For me, if you ask me who's been the best driver, it's Oscar Piastri's number 1. George Russell's 2 or 3. Then Max Verstappen is just right there. He's not had the fastest car this year, Max, but one thing he has is that mentality to get over the line. And that's what I like about Max. He has that. He's a big dog on the track. You know what I'm saying? Like he's that guy that you fear most. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about what went wrong yesterday. But you want to add anything more to what I said, or you want to move on to the next part?
No, I'll add to what you said. In regards to George, he's been the 4th best car driver for me. I think the two McLarens and Verstappen have been a league of their own, but for this specific qualifying, Lando made a mistake, and you can't afford to make these kinds of mistakes as a driver, especially when you're competing for the drivers' championship. You have the best car, you have the best toolkit, and after what happened last week as well, it's back to back. After what's happened last week, it's back to back weeks where the qualifying is gonna cause you not to get the 1-2 finish that McLaren should have. Last week it was a 1-3. This week I'm not sure if it's going to be the same. And Lando Norris said himself he called himself an idiot for that crash, because that's what he was. For me, if he didn't crash, I think he can get anywhere from P1 to P3. That's where his car was going to be. That's where his car was going to be. And with that, then you have 2 cars to face Max. That's more like that's going to be better strategy wise for McLaren. Last week McLaren were very safe. McLaren's problems are this: driver error from Lando at times, very safe with their strategy, and not aggressive enough when it comes to competing. If they want to win both championships, they need to be more aggressive. They need to reduce these mistakes. And especially considering last week of the mistakes Red Bull made in the race when it came to their blinkers and the pit stops as well. So for me, I think Lando made a mistake. I've enjoyed what the Mercedes drivers are doing. They've both been good. I think Lewis has struggled with the Ferrari car because of many factors, but I think one of the factors is they use a different types of brake system compared to the Mercedes, which I think he's really struggling with. And in this type of race where it's many corners, he's still struggling to understand how to maneuver the car in these type of tracks with these, because even Kimi Antonelli himself said that he preferred a type of brake system which the Ferrari actually use. So for these drivers, when you've been in a car and a system for so long and you've used the same brakings, you've used the same systems, you've used the same car for a long period of time, at his age, it's going to be very hard for him to learn a whole new system. And I think the struggles that he has comes down to that. I think at times he's been close to Charles in terms of pace. I have no doubt that he can get more out of the car, which needs to happen. But P7, with all things considered, isn't too bad. I think Carlos was brilliant. I think him getting P6 was a brilliant lap from him. Yuki getting into P10 again. This is the highest position that Max Verstappen's teammate's been for since the 2024 season. So Yuki is actually showing that he should have been in the car from the first place, because he's actually driving to a competent level. Pierre Gasly is hot on form as well. So a P9 for him was class. But overall, I think the drivers that have let me down is Lewis, because he's Lewis and especially Lando with the crash. And I think it was a very impressive drive from Max. It was a very impressive drive from Carlos. Very impressive drive from Gasly, because I don't think that Alpine is the best of the rest. I think the Williams is, and yeah, for me it's going to be a very interesting race, and I think the one that I'm going to look out for is probably Lando. I think Lando has the potential to get back into the top 3, but he's not going to win the race because of the position he's put himself in. He has the best car out of the rest of them, but he won't catch up to Oscar, and he probably won't catch up to Max. But the rest of them will be barbecue chicken for him in the race. But he's made it worse on himself, because 1, he's going to be in traffic. 2, his tire wear is going to be a lot worse, and 3, he's going to have to force himself to make big moves in the first lap, which could lead to further problems for him as well if he gets into a crash, or if he gets stuck behind a slower car. So that's the main issue when it comes to this qualifying. I think Lando let himself down. And the thing you said also about McLaren being able to have a bad weekend, they can't afford to, because their dominance can only last for so long. the Mercedes and Ferrari are gonna get quicker over the season. The Red Bull's gonna get quicker over the season as they continue to upgrade on their cars and what they're doing. There'll be a point in time when McLaren isn't the fastest car. It happened last season. Red Bull was fastest for the first part of the season, then McLaren took over. This year's McLaren's fastest, but then if other cars become closer and closer and closer, that's when the struggles of the first half of the season for McLaren of not getting 1-2s, of not maximizing their points, of not having the perfect weekends is going to cause them in the long run. We said one bad weekend
Yeah.
isn't good enough. That when Ferrari dropped those points for a double disqualification, that stops us from winning constructors, because as much as it is 24 races, one bad weekend can cost you so many points. The swing
Yeah.
and roundabouts. Imagine if Red Bull become the fastest car the second half of the season and Yuki and Max are doing 1-2s, 1-2s, 1-2s. Those points add up. McLaren need to, right now, get their car 1 and 2 every weekend. 1 and 2 in qualifying, 1 and 2 in the race. And if they don't do that and they don't put the strategy for that to happen, which they haven't been with the fastest car by a mile,
Yeah.
this is going to be a problem towards the end of the season.
I think Max Verstappen is that guy who oozes through pressure. You know what I'm saying? He's going to. It's going to be tough to go up against him tomorrow, like I said, for Oscar Piastri. But you're right. Tomorrow's going to be very interesting. Sorry, go on. What were you going to say?
No, I was finished. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm done. I was just going to make the point that George Russell has definitely been, impressive.
Yeah, him and Kimi have been quality, but I would say this: Mercedes have been
Of course.
better than Ferraris at maximizing
Oh
their.
yeah. Of course,
Definitely
of
been
course.
better than us. That's why
Of
they
course.
deserved third in the constructors,
I
and I
think,
think after this weekend it's going to be the same thing.
I
Ferrari
think,
and McLaren are the two teams that are letting themselves down. Those
I
are the
agree.
two teams in
Actually,
the
I don't
grid
think
that are
McLaren
letting themselves
themselves
down.
down. I don't think McLaren are letting themselves down. I think they just made a mistake this week. But definitely,
Well, look at last weekend. Lando had a bad qualifying and only just finished P3. And if you look at the results of each of the races,
Hmm.
they've only had there's been 4 races so far. They've only had a 1-2 once.
Yeah.
That's not good enough.
But the thing is, right? Like I just think if Lewis Hamilton was in that Mercedes this year, Mercedes would be just about level with what you call level with McLaren. Just about there.
No, I
I
don't
think
think so.
I think so because the strategy of Lewis Hamilton and the strategy of Mercedes will potentially match. And I know they've been a massive letdown over the last few years, but look at Kimi Antonelli. Guy is striving in Mercedes right. He's absolutely he's been brilliant this year. He's come in,
Yeah,
but George Russell's now
definitely.
taking over the number 1 seat, and he's taking that to another level. So you can
Yeah.
also look at Lewis Hamilton and be like, do you know what? If he was in that car this year, there's a good chance that Mercedes would just be on par with with McLaren. Just about, but McLaren will be slightly better still. McLaren had the faster car. McLaren had the better strategy. They have the better tires. They did have the better overall
It's
car
it's
this year
it's not
compared
a
to.
strategy. It's not you're right. It's not a strategy thing. But Mercedes and Red Bull, in terms of strategy for Max and their 2 drivers, has been better than McLaren.
Right.
McLaren has the best car overall. If you look at the practices, they're up by 0.5, 0.7 of a second. That is
Hmm.
ridiculous. If you look at the race pace, it's on another level compared to the other cars. Look at last weekend, Oscar Piastri. No one caught up to him. No one was even in a whisker or close of him for
Yeah.
most of that race. He wasn't even driving Formula One. He was on a smooth Sunday drive. He had the music on. He was chilling. He was do down that track, and no one was close to him because that's what that car is capable of. Lando has, for the last 2 weekends in qualifying, hasn't done good enough for that car, and Oscar should have got P1. And I don't care how great of a driver Max is. If you're in the best car, you need to be maximizing
Yeah.
what you do in every session. Because if you don't, when your car isn't the best, that's going to be where McLaren are going to have the issues towards the end of the season. And then we're going to look at these races and say,
Yeah. I
yeah,
agree with this. McLaren is the fastest car, but Max is the best driver in the world. Facts. Facts.
Yeah,
I've been saying this. Max Verstappen, he doesn't have to have a great car to be a champion. Max Verstappen, we saw that in the second half of last year. Max Verstappen didn't win a race for 5 months, and the guy still picked up points and won the championship. It's the first half of the season that got him the championship. Without the first half of the season, Max Verstappen wouldn't have been the champion.
yeah.
Those 5 months of not winning a single race against McLaren have kind of almost let him down. But that's what I like about Max. Like I said, the mentality of him is just unmatched. He has that winning mentality compared to most drivers that they don't. Him and Lewis Hamilton have the winningest mentality on the grid. Lando Norris is still learning from last year. I think Lando Norris last year he led McLaren to that constructors championship. Fair enough. But in terms of individual driver, he's nowhere near the mentality. The mentality, there's something wrong with Lando Norris. Like he's not like at the elite level in terms of mentality. He's a good driver. He looks like a decent driver for sure. I'm not taking anything away from him. But what I will say is that he still has a lot to learn if he wants to become driver's champion. Because Oscar Piastri this season has just taken over McLaren's seat completely, and nobody and you and I didn't think Oscar Piastri will be that number one driver this year, but it turns out he is. Because why?
Oh, no, I thought he had the potential to do it. I've always said that Oscar's the dark horse.
But we didn't think he'd be like that number one driver this year. We didn't think he'd be leading the drivers' championship and the constructors' championship for McLaren this year. Because Oscar Piastri's won the most races this year so far. It's not.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's shown that he could, because he's in the past he's won the F2 and F3 back to back.
Yeah, of course.
So he has it in him. It's Lando that I'm disappointed in. It's not Oscar. Yeah. Oscar's doing what he needs to do. It's Lando. After last season finishing P2 and having that race win at the end of the season, that should have been the turning point in your mentality to say, we have the best car. I'm winning every race. I'm out qualifying Oscar every race. I'm not making mistakes. But he hasn't had it.
But the thing is, bro, if Lando Norris was like the driver this year, if he was that guy that was leading, if he was leading, what's his name? If he was leading McLaren this year, McLaren would be by distance. It wouldn't even be close. No one would catch up. McLaren would be 100 plus points ahead right now if Lando Norris was on top.
Yeah, if he was on form, definitely.
Yes, they've got double podium many times, but Oscar Piastri has pretty much won majority of the races. He's won majority of the races. He's won, I'd say, how many races have there been this year? There's been like what? How many races? Like six.
He's won. There's been 4. There's been 4 races. He's won 2.
He's won 2 of them. So he's won 50% of McLaren's races. He's won pretty much 50% of McLaren's races. Who's won the other 2? Max Verstappen won 1, and who's the other one? Well, Lando Norris won 1. Exactly. He's been a letdown. And qualifying this year, he's been absolutely terrible. In terms of qualifying, go look at the qualifying numbers this year. Guy's been terrible.
I think the first 2 races he was fine, but first 3 races he was fine. I think it was Bahrain and today, or Bahrain and Saudi. He's been terrible.
If Ferrari had a better tire down the final stretch, he wouldn't have finished above Charles Leclerc last week. Charles Leclerc was a much faster car last week as well. Yeah. If Charles Leclerc had the correct tires going down the final stretch, he wouldn't have finished in the podium last week. It'd have been Charles Leclerc in the podium last week for sure, because Charles Leclerc was the faster car by a distance last week. It's like I said about Ferrari, it's the hard tires that always lets them down. The hard tires always lets Ferrari down, majority of the time at least, on some tracks. But last week, it was definitely the medium tires that got Ferrari to where they needed to be. They could have won the race last week if they got pole. I genuinely think Ferrari would have won the race last week if they got pole, because they literally had the fastest cars. He also was almost very, very close to George Russell at one point. Don't forget, he was what, 3-4 seconds behind, and he caught up to like 1.7 seconds, I think, at one point. He was almost in DRS range as well of George Russell. So that's what I'm saying. It could have been.
I don't think he would have won the race because he still got caught up and passed by Lando.
No, I'm saying that last week, if Ferrari had the better tires down this final stretch, they would have finished in the podium for sure. It's because they finished with they finished with the hard tires. Am I correct? Like, and you alluded that they should have finished on the soft tires, which I agree with. Yeah, the hard tires let them down last week.
Yeah, hard tires let them down. But in terms of the package overall, McLaren is, for me, half a second quicker than the rest on a regular basis, and the races in which they don't do well is down to Lando messing up It's not Oscar's side of the garage. He's doing what he's meant to do. He's won 2 races. He's 3 podiums. He's been elite. Lando hasn't, especially in these last two. This Grand Prix and the last Grand Prix. If you're
I'll be,
not 1 and 2, then you're messed up for me.
I'll be real, Daniel. He's not adapted well to the car. Lewis Hamilton. He's won 1 sprints, but that's about it. And what does the sprints do? It doesn't do much. The sprints haven't done.
To be fair, I would say this with Hamilton.
Go on.
At his, as I said before, at his age, when you're adapting to something new, it's difficult. If he was like a young 22, 23 Hamilton, still in his kind of peak conditioning, things of that nature, because this is a younger man's sport nowadays. All the drivers around him barely got a driver's license in terms of the other teams. So for Hamilton to adapt to a new team at this rate is going to be very difficult. Even for Carlos Sainz, who for me is a better driver than Albon, has taken a while to adapt to that Williams as well. So it's difficult because it's even more difficult because Hamilton is not used to moving from team to team to team. He's been under Mercedes engine from the moment he started to the moment he's been in Formula. This is the first time he's not in a Mercedes engine car. He's not got the same brakes. He's not got the same systems. It's the first time he's with something different. And at this level, that you can't afford to have an adaptation period.
Yeah.
And especially when you're in one of the elite cars. So, but at the same time, I'll say this. For Hamilton, this year isn't the year that I'm worried about. Next year is. Because for Ferrari, they need to get 2026 regulations correct and be the best car next year. This year is McLaren's year. If McLaren don't win the drivers and constructors this year, they only have themselves to blame. But next year, 2026, is where Ferrari has to show up, has to actually put together the car that allows Lewis and Charles to compete. Because I wholeheartedly believe if you gave them 2 drivers the right car, there's no other 2 drivers on the grid in terms of teammates that can compete with them. For me personally, in terms of the driver level, Lewis is a legend, and Charles is probably one of the best of the young of his generation. The only person in his generation that is better is probably Max, and that's about it.
This is why this is why I said Charles Leclerc should be number 1 driver right now for Ferrari, because Charles Leclerc looks like he has he's adapted. Well, obviously he's been in Ferrari longer, right? So it's hard to say he's the main Ferrari driver. But this is why I said Charles Leclerc should be Ferrari's number 1 driver, because he's been there longer. He's led Ferrari to higher levels than this. This is why I think Charles Leclerc should be Ferrari's number 1 driver. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton is the better driver. I'm not denying that one bit. But for me, I think Charles Leclerc should be Ferrari's led driver, because I've seen it in the past few races. Charles Leclerc has definitely been the faster driver. Driver.
Yeah, but when it came to the start of the season, he had to prove it, and he's proven.
Everyone has to prove it at the start of the year.
You have to prove themselves.
Yeah, you have to. You have to get off to a start.
Yeah, and even back to the McLaren thing. If Lando keeps making these mistakes, guess what? Who will become the number 1 driver? Oscar.
I didn't think Oscar would be number 1 driver. I'll be honest with you. This year, I didn't think one bit that he'd be number 1 driver. But McLaren have the faster car for sure. But this is why I always mention you need to have similar drivers, similar profiles when it's into the partnership. Because Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are very similar in terms of mindset. But Oscar Piastri is just a level above this year. Last year, Lando Norris was their lead driver. Obviously, it tailed off towards the end with Lando Norris not winning enough races to get the drivers' championship, right? Because he could have been there. He was almost there with Max Verstappen. He was almost level with Max Verstappen. But the problem is he was not. The mentality let him down. His mentality let him down. He settled for very, very less, and he had a few penalties that let him down last year. Remember that one incident in, like, what was it, in America or something? Was it Austin where it let him down? He was forced up the track onto the gravel. That's the part where they let him down, because Max forced him off the track, and Max Verstappen did what he had to do. Fair enough. That race right there won Max the championship. It did. That move right there won him the championship. Because if it wasn't for that move, I think Lando Norris would have potentially taken it to the final day. There was a good chance he would. And McLaren made some upgrades that kind of let them down towards the end of last year. But fair enough. I mean, they won the drivers' championship. But also, this is one thing, right? You need to have similar profiles of drivers when you're racing. You need to have similar mindset. And this is why I said Charles Leclerc and what was his name? Carlos Sainz was the most perfect partnership on the track. Because both were very, very similar. Both were so demanding. Both were very, very, I would say similar in terms of profile. There was a time where I thought, you know what, this is the end of Charles Leclerc Ferrari for me. I thought Carlos Sainz should take over the seat. But now Charles Leclerc just flipped that switch and just completely gone back to being the driver. This is why I think his mindset. It's always about mindset, and that's one thing that's let Lando down the season. And this is true by Daniel. He needs a psychologist. Because why would you settle for so less towards the end of last year? It's now let you down at the start of this year as well. Go look at where he is behind Oscar. Go look at how far he's behind Oscar in terms of points. I'm not trying to say they should race against each other. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. But he needs to be more of a team player. He needs to step it up in the next few races. I'm not discrediting anything that Lando Norris has as a driver. He's capable of doing anything as a driver. He's capable of being a driver's champion still. He's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
But the mindset's let him down this season, big time. The mentality's let him down.
Last two, I wouldn't say the full season. I wouldn't say the first three races Lando was on it. Last two, as I said, last week, this week,
Yeah, it's
it hasn't been. And he has more points than Oscar for now, but it's going to change very soon if he continues to be messing up.
That's surprising. That is very surprising because I thought Oscar has way more points.
No. Lando's first three races were fine. It's just last week he messed up in the qualifying and had to fight his way back to third, which was cool. And this week
he did a good job in that,
crashed out.
So now he's on P10. So he's gonna have to find his way up to the top now.
Yeah, he's gonna have to fight his way. And even if he finishes, let's say P3rd, or even if he finished P2nd, he's gonna be behind Oscar by the end of the weekend if Oscar wins the race.
And I also think Alex Albon's been a letdown as well this week. I think he should have finished P10.
It was a difficult one because he just lost it to Lewis.
Mm.
That was a very close one. I think that could have gone either way.
Wasn't his car parked in the garage?
No. I just think it was just it was what 0.007 or something like that. Yeah, 0.007 difference. It's a whisker away. I think Alex could have done no more.
Just about.
Yeah. If anything, the only one that kind of was a surprise was, as I said, Gasly. He shouldn't have been. He shouldn't be in top 10 with his car. But he's driving brilliantly. Last week gave him a confidence boost, I think, and he's continued that confidence boost into this weekend in terms of the driving. I think he's getting the most out of that Alpine. So that's the only man who probably stopped. That's the man who stopped really Albon getting into third round of qualifying.
And Yuki Tsunoda has also been a massive upgrade in the second driver's seat for Red Bull.
Definitely.
He's definitely been an improvement to Red Bull's season. But they should stick with him for sure. They should stick with him. They should let him be that driver for the rest of the year. Second seat up until when I think Liam Lawson's ready to fight back his place. But I don't think. But I think Yuki's a better driver anyways in the first place. So yeah. But what's more to talk about? But yeah, I mean that's all I can really say about the drivers in terms of this week. Last week was not last week. Tomorrow is going to be a bit insane. It's gonna be interesting tomorrow. You wanted to move to predictions now, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna go with Max on top. I think Max will stay top. I think Oscar comes number 2. And George number 3. I think the top 3 stays as it is. I don't think it changes. Unless somebody crashes out. because it's not there's not much overtaking zones tomorrow, right? It's going to be hard to overtake in some sectors. It's gonna and it just depends on how you start. So yeah, that's all I can really say about today. Well, you
Oscar Piastri 1, Max 2. I'm just gonna be optimistic. Charles Leclerc 3.
I hope you're right, but I don't see it because the pace of Ferrari.
It's gonna be between him and George because the pace is very similar with those cars.
As a Ferrari fan myself, I can't. It's hard to be optimistic with the way things have been going this season. Trust me, it's been really hard to talk about Ferrari this year. But it's been a bit of like a bit of an up and down year because I thought last week was the week Ferrari definitely get the podium places. They've not finished once in the podium this year. Let's ignore sprints, yeah. Other than the sprints in Beijing, right? Or was it Shanghai? So I'm sorry, I keep forgetting where it was. It was in Beijing, right?
Yeah.
Apart from Beijing, sorry, it was Shanghai. It was Shanghai. Sorry, it was my bad. It was Shanghai. Apart from Shanghai, there's been a world where this Ferrari's not been in the podium at all. There's Ferrari they've not been in the podium at all one bit this year. So
No, they've been close last week.
They need to get into the podium, man. They really need to get into the podium. Last week should have been the race. The strategies worked so well up until the last pit stop. Also, I want to ask you before you close out. Sorry. Do you think that the car should use one-stop strategies tomorrow? Because it's hard to overtake anyways. It's gonna be hard to overtake. It's gonna be a bit like, the lane's gonna be a bit, yeah, it's gonna be tight tomorrow in the lanes. So it's gonna be hard to overtake tomorrow. So I think one-stop strategies might work for everyone.
I don't think so. I don't think so because it's going to be about tire wear. Tire wear is the key, and I think tire wear this season has been very unpredictable and very tough, especially if you're behind other cars, and especially there's going to be a lot of DRS trains and a lot of the tires don't last that long as much as needs to. So a one-stop strategy is possible, but I don't know if anyone will do it because I think even last week, I think Ferrari was meant to try and do a one-stop strategy, but the hard tires weren't good enough. So if anything, it's probably going to be a two-stopper at most.
What do you think about Jack Doohan, to answer Daniel's question?
I think it's if not when. Oh no, it's when, not if. He will be out of that seat. He's been very poor for that car. The fact that Gasly is top 10 and he's not even making it past Q1, and the fact that your fellow Argentinian Colapinto, who I think is an unbelievable driver, who deserves a seat in my opinion over someone like a Jack Doohan. It's gonna be Alpine need to be ruthless, and Jack Doohan is just not the guy for them at this moment, and he's not proven it. The first 5 races, he's been below average, and the reality is this sport isn't about being nice. It's not about friendships. It's not about being a good guy. It's about how great of a driver you are. And when you're lagging behind your teammate, it's not a very good look. So sooner rather than later, Colapinto is going to get into that car, and when that does happen, I'm going to be very excited because he's shown flashes of brilliance. There's a reason why they stopped Red Bull from poaching him, and putting him maybe in their sister car team instead of Liam Lawson. So if Red Bull are looking at you as a driver, that shows how good of a driver you are.
Yeah, definitely.
Because their drivers are fast. So for me, that Argentinian man is gonna take that Australian out of a seat, and it may probably even lead to a track going to Argentina at some point, depending on how popular it becomes. Because I truly believe that if you give him the right car, he is one of those new generation guys that can, go all the way to top. I think him, Hadjar, Kimi, they're the next generation of stars for this sport out after the Landos, the Charles, the Maxes. So in terms of the generation after that, yeah, he's a part of that. And yeah, I need to see him in Formula One. Um, I'm tired of talented drivers not getting seats, especially when bums like Lance Stroll are in the car. So
That's harsh. That is harsh.
no, I
But
always have to shoot at Lance Stroll. I don't like him. But yeah, it's
no,
th-
I hear you.
it's
I
just
hear you.
it's just unfortunate that Jack Doohan is in the Alpine because
Yeah.
Gasly's been on fire in the last weekend and this weekend, and he's looked lost. And it's not like
Yeah.
Boratello, who's in a bad car anyway, so they're not going to look at him in a bad light. Hadjar's been doing what he needs to do for the Red Bulls. Behrman's been, if anything, Doohan out of the newbies has been the worst one.
Mm.
So that pretty much says everything I have to say. But yeah, it's
You,
harsh, but that's what this sport is. And Colapinto, he's one of them ones.
I
For
agree with you,
me,
but
he's
he
one of
should.
them ones.
He's a better driver for me. I think
Yeah, 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 man.
he should get a place. He's definitely been impressive at the start, and he's shown that he can definitely get a seat. But it's still a
If
long.
Max leaves Red Bull, I think he could even go to Red Bull at some point.
I don't know about that. I think they're gonna replace Max with a proper driver. I think they have to get a better driver in there. I think
They're
they might
going
have.
young, and if you need a young talent, Colapinto is that guy. I think he's as good as Kimi or as Hadjar. So that's how much I rate him
Fair enough.
as a driver.
Fair enough. But yeah, I think not much to talk about. Underdog driver tomorrow that could potentially get something, and then we'll wrap up.
For me, it's probably Sainz in that Williams. That Williams is very quick, so if he's able to poach a couple places while other people are competing, then
Nah, I
then
don't see it. I think he stays at Red Bull for now.
no, he's gonna leave soon. He's gonna leave in a year or two. And Aston Martin's the most likely because of a couple things. One, he
The
likes
final.
Nui. Two, there's apparently rumors that they're gonna be bought by the Saudis. So or some the Middle Eastern dons. So if that happens, Max to Aston Martin might happen, especially because Nui's making the car for 2026. And an Aston Martin with Nui, with the Mercedes engine, which is going to be one of the better engines for the new generation because it's their type of engine they're used to making. Yeah, I'm going to lie to you. Aston Martin's going to be a problem. And Lance Stroll has to go. Max in 2027, 2028. It's going to happen. It will happen. Because I think he's had enough of Red Bull. They've too much drama. A lot of their top guys have left. The guy that made the
Disagreements.
car brilliant. Yep. The situation with his boss as well. That situation as well. So yeah, there's too much stuff in the background where him and even him the changing of his teammates after a couple races. Like if you're a driver and you see that you're the guy that you thought you're gonna go with the season's gone after a couple races, it's like, yeah, no, this team don't. To me, it seems like the team doesn't know what they're doing. And if I'm Max, that's how I see it. He isn't going to go Mercedes because they've got Kimi and George. So that's very unlikely. But Aston Martin, there's a place there.
Aston
Fernando
Martin.
Alonso isn't getting any younger. And if Lance Stroll gets removed in terms of a controlling position of that team, his son is going to be gone quicker than you can say 1, 2, 3, go. He's going to be gone. So they may
But
need two new drivers.
imagine a partnership of Max Verstappen and Fernando Alonso.
That could happen, but I think Fernando will probably be gone by the time Max gets there. Because Fernando, for me, as great as Fernando is, he just seems to be in his Vettel era where he just doesn't care as much. He's just driving.
Yeah.
Unless they make him a great car next year and he decides to become the rookie of the year every year, then who knows?
So yeah, so who's your underdog tomorrow again?
Gasly and Sainz. Those are the two. One, well, Sainz mostly. Sainz because I think he can get a top 5 if he plays his cards right.
I think you probably have to give it to Kimi Antonelli, maybe, or you could probably look at Charles Leclerc. Them too.
I don't really look at them as dark horses. They've got the cars to potentially get a top three if they get the right momentum and the
Problem is
right
they that's why I call them underdogs. Alonso's a rookie. Fair enough. Hey, fair enough. But yeah, but that's all I think we have for today. I think we'll close out
Yeah.
here. Yeah, I think we'll wrap up. Thank you guys for 191 subs. 9 more to go, 200, and then we go on from there. But we'll see you tomorrow. I think for the review show. I think I might have to move it because obviously the playoffs, NBA playoffs, are tonight. So
Yeah, definitely.
I won't be able to do the show unless we can fit in some time. I can probably try, but I don't see why I can't. But I'll let you know again tonight. But people, we're gonna close out. Thank you, Daniel, for your support, man. Thank you for subscribing as well. Big up, bro. King, I left your link in the description. Subscribe to King's channel as well, people.
Thank you so much.
He's gonna do a lot more content, F1 content.
In Yuki, we trust.
In Yuki, we trust. But yeah, we're out. Take care. See you guys tomorrow. Hopefully, Ferrari do have a better race. Peace.